In the month of January, I managed to read 7 books, which is absolutely incredible. I think like the most books I've ever read a month was 8, which was last year's January. So I feel like January is like kind of like my month. I feel like I start the year, I'm super like motivated. I just want to read, and I super get through it. So I read 7 books. Of those 7 books, 4 were romances. 1 was kind of like literary fiction with a romance. And then the rest of the 3 were like fantasy kind of romance kind of vibe. So we had not too much variety, but I still had a lot of fun with the books that I read. So without further ado, let's sort of go into them into depth and what I thought of each book and everything. So I started out 2025 by reading Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borison. I've heard amazing things about this author, this series, this book in particular. I really liked this. I thought it was cute. I actually started reading it in December and then just like finished the last like 50 pages in 2025. So I feel like it doesn't really count, but I mean, technically I finished it in January, so here we are. I rated this book a 3.5 stars. I mean, it did what it needed to do. It was a romance, it was cute, but I don't find myself looking back on it, like thinking about these characters. Like I genuinely forgot the characters' names. I actually forgot. Yeah, I actually don't even know like the characters' names. Like that's like, it's kind of forgettable. Like I will always remember like it was really cute and I love the idea of the whole farm. And I am very inclined to read the rest of this series, which is like, it's like In the Weeds, Mixed Signals, like those kind of books. I'm very excited to read the rest of the series. But again, it was just like typical romance, like wasn't super memorable, but I still had a lot of fun. It did its job and for that I am grateful. So 3.5 stars. Basically from what I can remember, this follows this girl and she actually bought this Christmas tree farm and she really wanted it to be successful, and at the moment it's like literally going downhill. Like she is like barely making enough to even like pay her staff kind of vibes. Like there's like all these random things that keep happening that like it's just like, can it be coincidental? Like all these bad luck, like trees being rotten and stuff, and she's like, how can this keep happening? Like there's always a problem. Anyways, and then she's got her like best friend Luca, and they've been best friends for like years, and there's a lot of like family trauma and everything, but they have always been really close, and turns out they've actually liked each other for a long time. So it's very friends to lovers. I love it. Small town, kind of love everyone in the book. But yeah, I actually forgot, what was our main character's name? Oh, her name was Stella. Okay, Stella. And then there's like this influencer who like goes to her farm and she like basically lies and said, oh, well, me and my partner own this farm, and she's talking about Luca when reality they're not actually partners. So it's kind of like a fake dating sitch. It's kind of cool, kind of fun. Does what it needs to do. Very fun. Move on. The next book that I read, I rated this book a 4 stars. I had so much fun with this book. I think it was just such a good time. Like it really just like good, happy, fun time. Like so funny. I just loved it. That is Assistant to the Villain by Nicole. And this book was just such a good time. I rated this book a 4 stars. This was so much fun. Like I had heard really mixed reviews about this book. People being like, I don't like it, or either people being like, I love it. And I was like kind of going into it a bit skeptical, but I had the most fun ever. Like it is so funny. There's like this little frog who's like thing, and he holds up like little signs with one word on it. It's so funny. I absolutely love this. It's like a grumpy sunshine. She becomes the assistant to this like villain of this world, and it is just so good. She's just like a ball of happy energy, and he's just like, what? Like he is just so does not do happy emotions. So he's kind of like shocked when he starts to feel like happiness when she's around. He's like, what is this feeling? I don't like this. And I just love it. I think it's so perfect. Like grumpy sunshine is kind of like ugh when it's like, I don't know, when they have no reason to be grumpy, but obviously he's the villain. It's so good. I absolutely recommend this book so much. I had the best time with this one. Just 4 stars. It did what it needs to do. I'm so happy with this. I cannot wait to read the second book as well. The next book that I read, and the disappointment of the year, is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivie Blake. I ended up rating this book a 3.5 stars. I read this one in my 5-star predictions video. I thought this was going to be a 5-star read. I'd put it off for 2 years because I was so excited to read it. Like I was just too nervous to read it because I thought it was going to be a 5 stars, and then I read it and I was just disappointed, which fair enough. It probably is my own expectations like through the roof, but I just feel like the characters didn't live it up for me. It just didn't live up for me. Like I really loved our main male protagonist. Our main female protagonist, she kind of like went downhill for me. There wasn't a huge like character arc for me like with her. Like I feel like she just remained the same like throughout the whole book. Obviously that's fine, but like when you're writing a book, like you kind of do have to have like a character arc to make people like interested in your characters. But I really liked some of the conversations that this brought up with the whole what is even life and the big existential questions, which I thought was really, really interesting to read about, but it was just kind of like mid for me. This follows two characters, Aldo and I'm so bad with names, what is even going on? Aldo and Reagan, and they kind of meet at this art museum and they slowly fall in love. They have these big like existential conversations about life and the meaning of life, and it's really interesting to read about. I just found that the end was just like, I was really interested in the beginning, like it was going up and then it just fell completely flat for me. So that's this book. If you love it, like please do not take my personal opinions to offense. These are just, that's what it is, my opinions. So I do not mean to offend anybody if this is your favorite book, but it just wasn't for me. The next book that I read was A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, I believe. And I rated this book a 3.75 stars. I went into it like being like, what the hell is even this? Like the writing is so like strange. It's really like set up quite like strangely, which is like not, it wasn't like normal. It was kind of like set up like this like entries kind of thing where it's like our main character is addressing Dracula, but she doesn't name him by name. She just calls him you. So she'll be like writing, it'll be like a page, it'll be like, you told me blah, 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 and like this. But it basically starts off her, like her literal first thing is being like, I loved you so much and here's why I killed you. And so it goes through the whole story of like her being Dracula's bride and how it like, yeah, it is so, so interesting. Like, it basically goes through the whole story of her being Dracula's bride and how it ends up her killing him, basically. It is so interesting. I thought it was, I think it kind of brushed over because it is going through like centuries and centuries. It kind of brushes over all of like the amazing, incredible, like horrific historical monuments or like, you know, events that happened, and it kind of like brushes over that. They're like, oh yeah, we were there for like the war and then we left. And then it's kind of like, but like, how did that impact the people around you? Like, you know, that's where I thought it kind of lacked. Like it kind of lacked, I mean, there wasn't much of a plot. It was more of a character thing. I was like, okay, they're moving from here to here to here to here to here. And then it's like, it doesn't really go into, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't go into depth with that kind of like setting, and the plot was kind of like, I mean, the plot was good, but it was just like the setting just really like for me, there was a lot of like historical things that happened during those times which were like huge, which would have impacted the characters as well, but it was just kind of glossed over, which I was kind of like, because I'm such a history buff, I'm like, it could have been better. It could have been better, but I still had a lot of fun with this. It is very, it's quite spicy for like a Dracula's bride retelling. There's polygamous? Is that the one where it's like multiple people? They're in that kind of relationship where there's like multiple people in a relationship. Just quote me if I'm wrong, but it's that kind of thing, and they have like multiple. But anyways, 3.75 stars, had a good time. Still could have been better, but next. I then read Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. I rated this book a 4 stars. I think it was such a cute romance. This follows Ellie and Raphael. She is his nanny, pretty much live-in nanny. She's his nanny, and she's like this like musical thing, and she's got like a lot of like background and everything, and I think she was a great character. I absolutely love Ellie, and it's basically like a single father, grumpy sunshine kind of vibe. Like I absolutely love this like little series. Let me just say, this book is 600 pages long. It is far too long for a romance. I kind of like found myself like, I listened to the audiobook of this, but I found myself being like, this could have been condensed like to like at least 400, like, you know what I mean? At least 400 pages. No, at most 400 pages. But I really like the characters. Basically, they go on this trip to Hawaii and it kind of changes everything, and the characters are really, really cute. Loved it. Does what a romance book should do. Loved it. Lauren Asher is really good. She's hit or miss for me with some of her books. Like I really didn't like the first 2 books in the Dreamland Billionaire series, but I loved Final Offer, and then I really liked Love Redesigned, and I really liked Love Unwritten. And I haven't even read her Dirty Air series, I think it's called. I haven't read that yet, but she's just pretty good for me. But like some of them are like, oh, I don't know. But yeah, so liked this one. It could have definitely been shorter though. And then I read One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I rated this book a 4.5 stars. Hell yeah, this book, incredible. I read this for my 5-star predictions video. It wasn't a 5 stars, but it was so close. This book basically follows our main character Elspeth, and she kind of has like this demon living in her head, just normal. And basically there's like these Providence cards that like the whole like kingdom that they live in has, and they like have magic and stuff. So that's really interesting, and I feel like it's kind of good to go in it blind. I went in quite blind and I absolutely had the best time. This is so good. Fantasy of the year. Like genuinely so good. Think of like fantasy romance, this is it. The writing is just incredible. I'm pretty sure this is her debut as well. Quote me if I'm wrong. The writing in this is just so beautiful. The characters, I actually was rooting for them. You know, when you have like annoying main characters, you're just like, I just could not care less. I was invested and I love the little found family of this. Absolutely loved it, adored it. And the last book that I read in January was Funny Story, which I rated a 4.25 stars. This book basically follows our main characters, Miles and Daphne, and basically they're in this like where their previous partners, well, Daphne was engaged and then he cheated on her with his childhood best friend who was dating Miles. So Daphne and Miles are like heartbroken, whatever. She's got nowhere to live because she's been kicked out of home. Miles says, hey, you can live with me. So they move in together and they get invited to the other couple's wedding. Can you believe the audacity? And then so they're like, okay, why don't we make a plot and like, why don't we like fake date or whatever and try and go to this wedding? You'll see what happens, but like, it's just so, Emily Henry, guys, I love Emily Henry so much. She just does it for me. She's so incredible. I absolutely adored this book and it was just the best time. I'm so excited for her book coming out in April, and yeah, I just 4.25 stars. She just does it for me every single time. I love her so much. But yeah, that is my wrap up for January. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys had a good time. Thank you for stopping by. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you like, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.